Yo guys, and welcome back to another video, and welcome back to another Doctor Who review. And in today's video we're going to be reviewing Doctor Who Season 1 Episode 2, The Devil's Chord. And basically in this video I'm going to go over everything from the CGI to the set, to the acting, to the music, absolutely everything, to the storytelling, absolutely everything of The Devil's Chord. And I'm going to be giving you guys my brutally honest opinion on this episode, highlighting the good, the bad, and anything in between. So yeah, strap in and subscribe to this YouTube channel for more content. But yeah, let's get into this review right now. So The Devil's Chord, let's start off with the story. This episode was very, very cool. I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed this more than Space Babies last week. Not last week, a few hours ago. But yeah, I really enjoyed this episode a lot, and I just want to make it clear as well, I've watched the episodes twice now, so this is my second watching. I had to get a second watching just so I could fully go over and, you know, feel the episode, and, you know, maybe I may have missed a few things and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, let's start off with the storyline though. I thoroughly enjoyed the storyline. The whole idea of music being the binder of the human race is really cool. And it's a really cool and very true concept, because, you know, what would we do as humans without music? Music is a vastly huge part of most of our lives. So I think this story does hit hard with that sort of concept, and I think it's really cool. Also a very interesting concept to explore as a Doctor Who episode, and I do like this more supernatural, spiritual style to Doctor Who, which they're going for in this new series, which I think is just really cool. So yeah, we start off on Abbey Road. And we obviously have the Beatles in this episode. Not the actual Beatles. Some people played the Beatles. Basically, they're playing the Beatles. And obviously, the Doctor and Ruby want to go to Abbey Road. And before... well, I will talk about some other things later on, but yeah. So basically, we obviously meet Maestro, this new character, in the beginning of this episode. But I suppose we'll talk about Maestro a little bit later on. But yeah, cracking on with the actual plotline. So obviously they go into Abbey Road Studios and they find out that the Beatles have been recording some songs and they've been a bit shit. Like, let's just put it bluntly. They've been recording some pretty shitty songs. Obviously the Doctor and Ruby sort of question two members of the Beatles, and they're just like trying to get a figure out of, you know, what's going on. And then we get to a certain scene where you see Maestro in the reflections. I think that this was really well done, and I've got to say the visuals for this, mixed with the amazing sound design, just made for an absolute phenomenal little scene there. Moving on from that, then obviously the Doctor meets Maestro, and not after going onto a rooftop with a piano, and Ruby was playing a song, which I believe it might be her own theme on the piano, which, if it is, very cool. I do also like the constant reminders of the Doctor Who theme, which were played on the pianos as well, which I think is really cool, really interesting, and sort of breaks the fourth wall as well, which is done a lot in this episode, by the way. More on that in a bit though. So Maestro does eventually climb out of the piano as Ruby is making the music on the piano, and it's kind of removing all of this glum, dark stuff from the episode, and it's going a bit more lighter, and everyone's a bit more cheered up and stuff like that, which fun fact, I actually shout out to one of my favourite Doctor Who YouTubers, the Confused Adipose, because he actually said in his video, which I did actually watch before doing this, but he did mention that the old woman in the window is actually the person who knitted the Fourth Doctor's scarf, which is really, really cool that she got a cameo in this. Like, I love these little Doctor Who cameos that are just really, really cool. But that aside, you get sort of more conclusion in Abbey Road, and there's a little bit of hopping around in time. Obviously, the Doctor takes Ruby to the future and shows what happens to what actually happens to Earth, which is actually pretty insane. Again, the shots are beautiful in this. Just the depiction of it is really, really cool. And again, I just think it's really, really, it's just such a cool element, I suppose, to the whole story. Just showing firsthand what can happen when you change a few things in time. It's really, really insane. But nevertheless, there is eventually this huge confrontation between Maestro and the Doctor, and they end up sort of music warsing it out, and then obviously they play the keys on the keyboard. The whole resolution comes, the Beatles now become more of a part in it, and yeah, Maestro goes back into the piano and is locked away. We also find out that Maestro is the toy maker's child, which I think is very, very cool. I also like that Maestro is kind of just this entity. Like, it isn't really like a person. Like, Maestro is music, which I think is a really, really cool thing. And the CGI really depicts this really, really well, with the musical notes coming out and spiraling around and all that kind of stuff, which I think would have taken a vast amount of time in post-production to make that, but it looks really, really cool. So yeah, that is kind of the whole storyline. And then you obviously got the big musical number at the end, which, to be honest, I did really, really like how it was shot. I think it was really, really cool. It was a bit strange, I'm not gonna lie. It did feel a little bit more out of place than the musical numbers before it. Like the Church in Ruby Road was kind of directly tied into the story, as well as the Spice Up Your Life one in the Toy Maker episode, The Giggle. That was directly tied into the story. This one was a little bit just of an ending, just like there's always a twist sort of thing. Which I do get it, it's a bit of a gag and all that kind of thing, and I did really, really like it, and I think it was really, really well choreographed, and it did look really, really cool, and it's fun. It's Doctor Who, they're trying new things, and Doctor Who is really about anything happening every week, which is really, really nice about the show, and why I love Doctor Who in the first place, because they do change it up ultimately every single week, and it's really, really cool. So, let's get on to the actual characters now. So, first of all, the Doctor and Ruby in this episode were absolutely amazing as always. Acting was probably the best I've ever seen, and some of the best acting I've ever seen in Doctor Who altogether. And highlights of this is obviously when the Doctor is confronting Maestro, and yeah, both of them did a really, really great job. So, speaking of Maestro, let's talk about Maestro. This villain was absolutely insane. And the villain is actually played by Jinx Monsoon, I believe her name is. Yeah, Jinx Monsoon. Jinx. Let's just refer to Maestro as Jinx. Well, the actor who played Maestro as Jinx. So, there's a lot to comprehend here. This is quite a big episode. There's quite a lot going on. Space Babies was a little bit more contained. This episode had a lot more going on. So we got Maestro, which is the big villain of this episode. Absolutely amazing. Acting out of the park. absolutely knocked it out of the park. All the singing involved with it, it was absolutely great. I think Maestro as a villain just was insane. The huge stakes and the huge power, similar to the Toymaker, was really, really great as well. And I just think that this is just a really, really nice, cool thing of Doctor Who now. And so yeah, Maestro, great. The costume, also great, and all that kind of stuff as well. You obviously got the Beatles in this episode too, which is really, really cool. I never thought I would ever be seeing the Beatles in a Doctor Who episode before, but here we are. And it helped having some time, so what better time than now? I think it was really, really good, and all of the people who played the Beatles did such a good job. I've listened to some of the Beatles music. I'm not a massive Beatles, I'm not obsessed with the Beatles or anything like that, but from what I know and my limited knowledge, they pulled it off pretty well. And yeah, the music in this episode, considering it was all about music, very, very good. And I'm going to be talking about that a little bit more, interlocking with other things. So yeah, let's go with the sets and locations first. So the sets and locations of Abbey Road Studios and Abbey Road and the rooftops and all that kind of stuff, absolutely amazing. They pulled it off really, really well, and again, it looked beautiful and fantastic as an episode, which I really, really did enjoy. The CGI overall, I've got to say, they absolutely killed it in this episode. Every part of the CGI in this episode was absolutely smashed. I do not have one fault for any CGI in this episode. The musical notes looked really, really cool. The CGI backgrounds looked really, really cool. And I think they absolutely nailed it. So, huge props and fair play to the Doctor Who team for nailing that. Then we've got the actual sound design. Let's go for the sound design and music. Again, they changed, they did something new. I really, really liked how they did, again, a very unique style of Doctor Who opening titles. And again, really, really cool. Starts off with the piano, morphs into the actual theme song, and then finishes on more of a tinny, high pitch of the actual cassette player. So I think it's just, it just looks, it's really, really cool. Jukebox, cassette player, I don't know fully, but yeah, it looks really, really cool. It worked very, very well as well for the episode, which I've got to say was very, very good. And I've got to say, one of the things that really, really stood out is how this episode was shot and the sound design in this episode. One thing that I didn't mention about the Space Babies episode, which I really, really liked, is the transitions to where the snow was falling in. That whole bit where the Doctor stood there and then boom, the background changes, he's back on the church on Ruby Road and he's just staring at the other character who's pointing at him, which is really, really, really cool how that was shot, and the transitions and everything like that, and the sound design around that was amazing. And if anything, they just really upped it in this episode, because I absolutely adore the sound design in this episode. From all of the stuff with Maestro, where they cut the audio, and well, they didn't cut the audio, they muffled down the audio, and then the audio comes back in. You've got the shot, the beautiful crystal clear shot of the little metal thing. I don't know the official name for it, but it's a little metal thing, and it was going into the puddle, vibrating, and then you can hear the vibrations slowly pulling through. The sound design on this episode was absolutely insane. You've got so many other there's too many to fully comprehend with this. But yeah, sound design, probably the best I've ever seen in Doctor Who. Absolutely amazing. And the soundtracks as well to go with it. like the synths and stuff like that. The more simple stuff, it tied in. For an episode about music, the soundtrack was insane. I genuinely, there's some of the more simple soundtrack pieces from this, which are just, they really make the moment for me personally. So, very, very good. So yeah, I think that's basically everything that I've talked about for this whole episode. So that is my full review on The Devil's Chord. I've got to say it's better than Space Baby, so I'm going to give it a solid 9 out of 10. I don't really have many problems with it at all. It's probably a 10 out of 10. But yeah, the only thing I would say is that the musical number is a little bit out of place. Like, I do get it, and it does work in the musical episode and the musical sense, and it is really fun to do, and it's changey of Doctor Who, but it did feel like it was kind of thrown in at the end. I would have really preferred it if they would have used the musical number as a way of ganging up and defeating Maestro. I think that would have been a really cool way to do it. And it's like the Doctor's singing, and it's like a battle between Maestro and the Doctor, and it's this whole huge grandiose musical performance, and then it ends with Maestro being sucked back into the piano. I think that would have been a little bit more of a better use of it, but so yeah, out of that I would give it a 9 out of 10. But 9 out of 10 is very high scoring, especially in the realm of New Who and how good it is at the moment. So I've got to say, Doctor Who is officially back, and yeah, it's pretty insane. But that's basically the end of this whole video. So thank you guys so much for watching this review and video. I'm gonna see you guys in the next video. As always, thank you for watching. Please comment, like, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.
Yeah. You ready? Hey. Let's go. Bet. Yo, once again I'm back around, real shit back in style, haters reconcile, I'm so black and proud, first class tickets now, feet all in the aisle, everybody looking down, everybody get red when you drown, huh? Looking me up, I'm putting it down, you picking it up, checking the models, they want us to go to college just so we can be stuck, go to school to make a living, or teach yourself to make a fortune, common sense, welcome to the apocalypse, bitch I'm one of the horsemen.